Right then guys, we'll continue on with part 2. We're still at D's. This is a bit of an odd game, this. Dewey's Adventure. You basically play this guy here who's Dewey. He's a drip basically, and you use the Wii remote sort of like a balancing tool, and you have to try and guide him throughout the level. He has abilities that you could turn him into ice, so he's harder, you can knock down enemies with that, or you could heat him up so he turns into mist and you could float away and whatnot. It's pretty good, it's pretty clever. Again, this is one of the games that you think is aimed at children, but the difficulty is quite high. It's produced by Konami. I'm not actually sure if it's made by Konami or not, but yeah, definitely a hidden gem, this. So that's Dewey's Adventure. Another kiddie inspired game here, Drawn to Life. This was also available on the DS. If you look at that cover, you would almost be embarrassed to buy this game from your local store, because it does look like it's made for 3-year-olds. And in a way, I suppose it is, but again, it's pretty good, pretty fun. You basically go on an adventure, and when you come to certain parts in the game, like for instance here, you have to try and make your way across between trees. So you use the Wii remote and you would draw a bridge in, and that allows your wee character, your wee manny, to continue on his way. You could draw in bad guys, you could draw in tools to use against the bad guys. So it brings out the child in you. It's good fun, fairly simplistic to be honest, but that's what you expect of a game that looks like that. Platformer game here, Def Jr. Root of Evil. This is the third person sort of open world platformer. You play this wee manny here and you have to hack folk up to death with your big scythe thing. It was available on the PSP. I don't think it done too well on the PSP. I think it was also only released on the Wii. It never got a PlayStation or Xbox release. It's nice graphics. It's sort of a bog standard sort of platformer. There's not a great deal happens in it. It is enjoyable, but I wouldn't go selling your granny to buy a copy. Another point and click venture here. The original sin, Diabolic, or the Bollocks. This is sort of like an animated comic where it's comic strip related, and the levels that you play, it's just all point and click, like the old days, like the old Broken Sword games and whatnot. But it's sort of like almost like a murder mystery type game. It's quite good. It gets a little boring. You do have to read quite a lot. Some of the puzzles don't really make that much sense. But yeah, it's pretty enjoyable. And it has some attractive ladies in it, which is always nice to look at. I don't actually know if this was based on a cartoon or a comic strip, or I'm not really sure on that. Here's one of the Wii's premier titles. This is Dead Space Extraction. This is nothing like the Dead Space for the Xbox. That is a third person adventure survival horror game. This is a first person shooting game, like a light gun game. It's on rails. You do have the chance to make a few decisions here and there though, but it's very, very tense, very exciting, beautiful graphics, and I personally think this is better than the Dead Space games for the other systems. It's a good length, a really good length actually for a shooting game. Most first person shooting games are only a few levels at best, but this is a good few hours. Definitely pick it up, but don't play it with the lights out. An unusual game now, The Blob 2. This is a sequel to, obviously, The Blob. You play this wee manny who has the ability to dip himself in paint, and the object of the game is to repaint the town. The town's been overrun by government that likes everything in black and white, and it's up to you to restore some colour, some energy back into the world. It plays a lot better than the first one. The control issues of the first one have been addressed. It's a little easier to control. It's the type of game I don't think you would complete. You wouldn't spend the hours to finish it, but you certainly put it on, have a good few hours fun out of it, and it's good fun. A good, unique, original game for the Wii. Right, 2 music games now. DJ Hero 1. Again, this is just the same as the other versions. This actually came from the Renegade edition, which is also available for the Wii. If you don't know what that is, it's the original turntable, a wee bit more spruced up. It's shinier, it's got gold buttons as opposed to black buttons, and the decks come with a stand, which is pretty nice for parties and things like that. And then there's DJ Hero 2. This is a totally different soundtrack to the first one. This is more dance related, whereas the first game is a bit of a mixture of everything. So both games complement each other. There's something for everyone in these games. Great fun to take out for a party, especially since I have additional decks for this. So you can have the two player deck off. Right, on to E. Here we have Emergency Heroes. Unfortunately, this is one of the weakest games in my collection. You play this Manny who's in charge of the emergency services from the future. You have police, you have the ambulance, you have a fire engine type vehicle, and you just drive around. It's basically on rails mini games, a wee bit of driving. It plays a little bit like Burnout, but only a tenth of its quality. I wouldn't really recommend it, to be honest. It gets boring very, very quickly. Here we have one of the launch titles, Excite Truck. Most people have played this. It's a really, really good, fun game. No hold bar driving action. You play a truck, you interact with the environment, do stunts, do some tricks. Really good. Unfortunately, we didn't get Excite Bots here in the UK. A lot of people say that is the better game, but you can have this, pick this up for 50p, so it's definitely worth adding to your collection. We have Epic Mickey. I think this might have been a Wii exclusive at first before it made its way onto the other systems. I could be wrong, but a really good Mickey game. All the Mickey Mouse games are pretty good from the past, like your Castle of Illusions and things like that. This is a 3D world, and you have a magic brush that you could attack people with and paint them and whatnot. Pretty good game. Certainly not like a Mario beater or anything like that, but it's worth picking up. Here I have the sequel, Epic Mickey 2. This is actually the collector's edition. It comes in this little sort of old TV style box. It's hard to see, it's a wee bit bigger. It's sort of just more of the same, to be honest. You now have 2 characters to play. You have this guy who's somebody from the original Mickey Mouse cartoons or something like that. I'm sure he used to be the original character of Mickey Mouse. I could be wrong, but somebody please correct me if they know. But this collector's edition comes with like a film cell, a keyring and whatnot. You can still buy it new. I bought this new for, I think it was £9 or something like that, so it's a pretty good game to pick up. It looks nice on the shelf. Right, onto the F's now. Fragile Dreams, Farewell Ruins of the Moon. This game is, I would like to say, phenomenal. It's not for everyone. It's very, very slow. I look at this as not a game, but an experience. You enjoy the ride. It's not challenging in any way. You basically play a small boy who's the last human on the planet, and he's to walk around this wasteland. That's the only people he bumps into are robots. This girl, he sees this girl, you're not really sure if she's real or not, but you spend the majority of the game chasing after her, and it's just really, it's actually sad. It's a sad game. You really feel sorry for the little boy, all alone, At the beginning of the game, his sort of granddad, that he calls him his dad, he passes away and leaves him on his own. So it really is, as I say, a great experience. It's not a great game, don't get me wrong, it's not going to be Game of the Year or anything like that, but it's a wonderful experience. So I would definitely recommend Fragile Dreams. Another guitar game here, Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock. I've not even took the sticker off yet. It's the last, I think, of the Guitar Hero games. They were getting a bit stale by this point. They'd used up the majority of their good songs. This version's a little bit more heavy metal. It just plays the same as every other Guitar Hero. Right, G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra. This is identical to the Xbox and PlayStation versions, and unfortunately that is a bad thing, because the games were terrible. I kind of hoped that they would make the Wii version a wee bit better, but it's just a sort of a top-down run and gun style game. It looks like it could have been done on the PlayStation 1. It plays a little bit like Apocalypse with Bruce Willis, if you've played that. It really is just a boring shooting game. I don't think any of the characters, the movie actors, use their voices or anything like that. It's a piss poor attempt at a movie tie-in. We've got Ghost Squad, another fantastic game by Sega. This is a light gun game in the vein of Virtual Cop 1 and 2 and games like that. And these type of games they definitely don't make. The Wii had a few belters on the light gun games. This is just Virtual Cop for the latest generation. It's they've expanded it a little. You can now upgrade some of your weapons. So there's a few paths to take, different routes. So it adds a little bit You can add a little length to the game, but it's yeah, really good. You can pick it up cheap. It's highly recommended. A really good, great fun game. The reason I bought a Wii in the first place here is GoldenEye 007. GoldenEye is still one of my favourite games for the Nintendo 64. I love it to death. I play it usually once a week, if not every couple of weeks. So I was really looking forward to this remake, and from a GoldenEye fan, I think this is excellent. I think they've done everything they could to make it playable in today's market. Everyone said it just plays a little bit like Call of Duty. I don't think that's such a bad thing. They've streamlined some of the levels, but you could definitely see the original game in it. A lot of the levels have made it into it, and it's just really good. The multiplayer is not as good this time, but you could play 4 people on the one TV, which, how many games do that nowadays? Everything's online. Right, another movie tie-in game here, Green Lantern, Rise of the Manhunters. This came out along at the same time as the movie. It's not really based on the movie as such. There's a few different bits here and there to it. Again, it's a 2.5D platformer. It's alright. It's certainly better than the movie, because the movie was terrible. It's not the best sort of platformer. The levels are a little dull, but the Green Lantern does have a few powers that you could use. You could transform into a big anvil and various things like that. So it's enjoyable, but you would enjoy it more if you're a fan of the Green Lantern. Another Guitar Hero game here, Guitar Hero 5. Here's a nice little game, a twin pack, old classic 90s Sega shooters, Gunblade, New York and LA Machine Guns. These games actually have not aged that well. The graphics are a little ropey, considering they came out after Virtual Cop. But it's still good fun to play, on rails, 3-level shooting games. Unfortunately, you don't have the big machine guns like the arcades used to play with. But yeah, definitely worth 2 games in one. Quick 5-minute play. Worth a punt. One of my favourites on the Wii, Ghostbusters the video game. This is nothing like the other versions. They remade the game for the Wii and the PlayStation 2. A lot of people say this is Ghostbusters Kids. I personally think it plays better than the Xbox and PS3 versions. It takes itself less serious, like Ghostbusters should. Some of the quips and comebacks are really enjoyable in it, and it's great fun to control with your gun with the Wii Zapper. It works really well. It's a more fun, streamlined game. So even if you weren't a fan of the 360 or PS3 version, I definitely recommend picking this up. Nice little old school shooter now, Geometry Wars Galaxies. This was, I'm sure it was a downloadable title at one point, but if you've played Geometry Wars before, it just plays just like that, but it looks pretty spectacular. It's got sort of like a Vectrex sort of graphics look to it, Tempest 2000. Pretty addictive, loads of levels, I think there's over 60 levels. Good soundtrack. Again, I personally wouldn't play it for hours on end, but it's great fun to fire on for 20 minutes to try and beat your top score. A classic that everyone knows, House of the Dead Overkill. This game holds the world record for the most F-bombs in a game. It is ludicrous. This literally is a swear word every 13 seconds. One of the best House of the Dead games. I personally think the second one's the best, but this is fantastic. It was obviously a Wii exclusive before it made its way to the PlayStation and that. But really, really good. A really adult, grown-up game for the Wii. Some sick humour in it, right up my alleyway. There's a lot of jokes about incest and paedophilia and all that lovely stuff that people love to joke about. So House of the Dead Overkill, definitely pick it up, but definitely don't play it in front of your children. Next up is Indiana Jones, the Staff of Kings. This was a PS2 remake. I think they basically just took the PS2 game and added in Wii controls. Sometimes it helps. It's very satisfying using your whip, which obviously is a whipping motion with the Wii remote. It's very satisfying to use that to leap over canyons and whatnot, but there's a few points that the controls are a little clumsy. Having to use the D-pad to adjust your camera can get annoying. But it's a fairly fun game. Indiana Jones games have always been sort of mediocre, I think. But a smile does come to your face when you hear the theme tune. The theme tune does play quite a lot. Usually after you jump over a big gap using your whip, you'll hear do 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 do. So it's very satisfying. Another film style game now. This is Iron Man. This is not really based on the film at all. There's a few bits that they've tried to shoehorn in, but you basically fly around and shoot people. They've restricted the Wii version compared to the other versions. You're now in a smaller sandbox. You don't have quite as much freedom to fly around, which helps because you don't get lost quite as easily. But again, it's Iron Man. It could have been so much better. The thought of playing as Iron Man sounds awesome, but unfortunately they've not really took full advantage of that. Disappointing, as you see the Sega logo there. You expect great things when you see Sega. Right, another Sega title here. Not a lot of people have heard of this one. It's from the creator of Sonic. Don't know how much he had involvement in it. Also by Rising Star Games, another good company. Ivy the Kiwi. This is a puzzle game that's fairly unique. Little Ivy there, he wants to get home, so he just constantly runs across the platform, runs along ledges, runs along slopes, whatnot, and you control the Wii pointer, and the Wii pointer has the ability to sort of connect platforms together with vines. So you have to make them little ramps for him to climb up, you have to make them little trampolines so he could bounce up higher, and you basically just have to get him from point A to point B without him cracking his wee nut open. It's really good. Again, it looks like it's aimed at kids, but it's really difficult. Some of the later levels get really hectic and you have to really think on your toes. Works well with the Wii remote. Definitely check out some game footage for this. It's not that common. You do see it quite a few places, but I don't think it's sold very well. But yeah, I'd definitely recommend picking this up. It's not a similar style game, but it reminds me a lot of Choo Choo Rocket on the Dreamcast. Here's one I got from my wife, Just Dance 2, but I must admit I really do enjoy this myself. It's you could create a bit of a workout, a bit of a sweat doing the dances, some good tunes on it. But obviously this has been a bit of a sensation, this Just Dance. I feel that these are better than the Kinect versions. The obviously Kinect is utter shite, so it never registers any movements. This is a wee bit clearer in the dance options, dance movements, but these games are what you put into them. Just Dance 2, give it a try. You're never too manly or fat and old to try these type of games. Right, here's a really good one I enjoy. Gorham Bar. This is sort of like a Marble Madness style game where you use the Wii remote and you tilt it like this and you control the table and you have to get your wee marbles to the goal. Sort of like Super Monkey Ball, but with marbles. Plays really good, loads of levels, loads of difference in the levels. Nice beautiful graphics. Wii remote works well. It controls, it's fairly sensitive. You won't really get too frustrated with it. Definitely worth picking up. Oh, excuse me. It's Gorham Bar. You have to say it like that when you pick it up as well. Here's a title that's fairly difficult to find. It's going up in price. Klonoa. This is a remake of the PlayStation 1 version. 2.5D platformer. Klonoa there is a wee man, he's got a magic ring who allows him to take shits on the go and things like that. No, I'm joking, it doesn't. His magic ring allows him to attract things, you could pick up things and throw things and whatnot. So he's a bit of a hooligan, but obviously he's got his cap on sideways there, so that identifies him as a hooligan. It's a really good game. You can use the classic controller and the GameCube controller, which helps. If you do see this cheap, I'll recommend picking it up because this will probably go for an average of 20 to 30, sometimes £40 on eBay at the moment. So it's definitely going to be worth money in the future. The original Klonoa for the PS1 is worth a fair bit, so I think that's why. So definitely worth picking up, good game. Next up is Little King's Story. Again, look at that cover, you think this is for children. It's basically Pikmin. You control a wee manny and you have to, always servants and that, follow them around and you control them, you make them build houses, you make them dig holes, you could fight them against other people that try and come into your territory and things like that. So you could be a good king or you could be a bad king. Sort of like what Fable 3 tried to do. This is more fun though, but it plays just like Pikmin 1 and 2. So I don't know what you really call those games. RTSs? I suppose they're RTSs. Again by Rising Star Games, they've done quite a lot for the Wii. So definitely pick it up, recommended. Right, last one in this part is Link's Crossbow Training. This was just a packing game for the Wii Zapper. It's just a small game. It's good fun. It's you basically just target shooting in the Link's Kingdom in the Zelda world. Not the largest of games. You run around shooting targets, shooting goblins and whatnot. You could pick it up brand new for £1 or £2. So it's worth a play for half an hour. Right guys, that's it for part 2. I'll stop it here and continue on from here.